first up, let's focus on Manchester City, that dramatic collapse away at Real Madrid in the second leg of the Champions League semi-final. How do we think that will impact them in the Premier League title race late in the season? But Nick, first and foremost, that game was absolutely bonkers, right? Real Madrid, City, how Real scored twice late to take it to extra time. What were your first thoughts on that game to start with? And then we'll go a bit deeper into Man City's analysis and how that could impact them. But that was an all-time classic semi-final, right?
Absolutely incredible. And it's one of those things where yesterday I literally thought to myself, oh, maybe I will break down second by second who was at fault, what mistakes happened. But it was just chaos. And I do, I technically keep referring to it as a Manchester meltdown. I do want to give credit to Real Madrid. I think obviously us being a Premier League site, a lot of times we focus on these two teams which have shown themselves in Man City and Liverpool to be among the best, if not the best in the world this year. But what Real Madrid has done in winning their league by, well, depending on how they react over the next couple weeks, double-digit points, and beating PSG, Chelsea, and Man City. I had a friend of mine tweet out, I don't think any of these teams will beat Liverpool. And I just wanted to be really, because Real Madrid has taught us plenty. And I think it'd be silly to doubt them right now.
It really would be, right, Andy, because they just have that aura about them. And you pointed out, mate, many weeks ago, let's give you a big pat on the back. You said they win the Champions League. And that was just sensational. The way they just didn't even have a shot on target until the last 90th minute of that game. And then they just came through, and different players, Rodrigo this time, Benzema in the past, just keep stepping up. And they just never say die, right? Real Madrid, it's sensational. But for Man City, that was just so damaging. We'll get into that. But what were your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, we're 2 seasons into doing the PST videos, and I am 90 minutes away from predicting both Champions League winners at the start of the knockout rounds, which, that's not nothing. And I think what I said when we predicted it a couple months ago was it had a team of destiny vibe to this Real Madrid team, because it's not the most talented, it's not the most big names it's not even close to the most big names that they've ever assembled on a squad, but it's kind of it's an old school type team where they work really, really hard. And I think they've taken on a little bit of the personality of Carlo Ancelotti. And I think he has stabilized what was a pretty rough situation when Zinedine Zidane left once again, and he's come in and just kind of galvanized this group and got them playing really, really hard. It's not too flashy. They score a couple goals off of set pieces to get the job done late. They get a penalty. They've got the one star at center forward that can drag them to results, and that's maybe the one big difference, or one of the big differences in how these two teams, Manchester City and Real Madrid, were built. And that ended up being kind of the difference over the 2 legs because of what Karim Benzema was able to do in the first leg. Obviously converts the penalty in extra time of the second leg. So it's a little bit surprising, I think, to see Manchester City once again kind of fall apart. Manchester meltdown is a pretty good phrase for it, but I just think the way that they play and the way that Pep sees the game, I think as much as anything, maybe gets in their way a little bit, maybe gets in his way a little bit, because it's always about controlling the game and seeing it out from where they have it. And I think, Nick, you and I were texting halftime and all the way through the second half and extra time of that game, and it just felt like City were going to be too idle. They were going to sit still. They were going to let Madrid have a little bit too much. And obviously it took until stoppage time for them to get the 2 goals. But it just had that feeling like it was coming because they let them hang around. And even when Mahrez scored, I don't know, it was tough to count that Madrid team out because of what they've done in La Liga this season and the path that they've taken to get to this point in the Champions League. Nobody can ever take anything away from this Madrid team if they go on and win the final because of who they beat to do it.
Absolutely. I mean, they kind of done it the hard way, but you mentioned it right there, right in the middle. The big difference was the goal scorers, right? The superstars, Benzema, Rodrigo. Man City created so many chances, and even, they had opportunities to wrap it up in 90 minutes when Jack Grealish looked like he scored incredible clearance off the line and then had another chance. And that's been the story of Man City's season and why we're not talking about them winning the treble or quadruple. Now it's all just down to the Premier League title. And it sounds boring, right? We've been saying it all season, but the lack of not having a Harry Kane, not having an Erling Haaland, not having that central forward to put these chances away has really come back to bite them in the backside. And sometimes football is a very simple game, and as wonderfully creative as Man City are, if they keep passing up those chances, you just keep giving teams like Real Madrid, of all of their experience and their good balance of youth and experience, they keep in that belief that they're still in the game. Somehow we're hanging in there, right? So my next question really to you guys, Nick, let's start with you. How will that collapse impact Man City? Because Pep Guardiola has been coming out and said, maybe I'm not the right man for the job. I'm not sure. And is there more pressure on them now, or is almost maybe a relief that there's full focus on just one trophy and okay, we're still 1 point ahead of Liverpool. We can still do this and salvage the season. So it's really on a knife edge for Man City, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think there could possibly be relief. I don't know. I think the emotional tumult right now has to be higher than, or bigger, or however you want to measure it, than it could possibly be. I think at the heart of it, it's one of those things where you have to decide the culture, the history, everything that goes into it. How can you write it off in this one-off? Because at the heart of it, Thibaut Courtois had an absolutely phenomenal game, getting just a little bit of the boot on that one shot from Grealish. 4 saves in the first half when this game could have been absolutely in bed. And if you were to go to the situation, if you were to look at it as a whole, you could absolutely say, look, as a one-off, this stuff happens, right? Raheem Sterling against Lyon, missing, very, very in tight. All of these things can be written off as one. And honestly, perhaps they should be. That perhaps in this instance, it maybe should be. Ruben Dias and Aymeric Laporte kind of just fell apart in for 2 minutes. The penalty was kind of wild in itself. And, I look at it and I have to think to myself, if you look at the entire system, it is simply a finisher. But even then, the goalkeeper was absolutely incredible. So, I know to write it off sounds insane, and I'm not forgiving anybody. This is a huge failure, huge. But I don't know that using a big picture, whoa, look at these guys failing, is anything to do in a wise sense.
Yeah, it's this year alone, sure, that's fine.
Right.
But it's every year. It's year after year after year. And eventually that adds up, and you have to say, and I think it's kind of probably tongue in cheek a bit, but also a mature thing from Pep to say, well, everybody sees me as this really, really great icon of managing. Maybe I'm not the right man for the job, and just to consider, and obviously that's a little bit ludicrous to say that, but I think the way that they play, obviously it suits a league season where you've got 38 games and you can exert the type of control within a game and over the course of a season the way that he wants his team to play with. Because I think at his core, Pep Guardiola is nothing more than a control freak. He wants to be able to dictate everything, every kick of the ball, every touch of the ball, everything that happens from the opening whistle to the final whistle. And you can do that in a 90-minute game where that's the structure. But when you're talking about knockout rounds and you're talking about 2 legs and you have to manage so many micro situations during that seems to be where Manchester City fall apart just a little bit. And not having that center forward again, like it's been easy, I think, for a lot of people to look at Man City and say, well, they don't need a center forward this year. Look at what they're doing in the league. And then you look at the knockout competitions and you say, that's where you need a center forward. That's where you need somebody who can get you a vital goal. And I think this tie was probably lost in the first leg. Now that I'm thinking about it, because they went up 2 goals 3 different times in that game. And every single time, just a hard-nosed Madrid team knew how to keep themselves in the tie. They got a goal every single time to pull it back to 1 goal, and then they set themselves up for what they did in the second leg. So even those situations, I think, were probably mismanaged a little bit. You've got a 2-goal lead at home as well, and they weren't able to hold on to any of them.
It's crazy. Even in the second leg, going down to the last 5 minutes, they were in control, it seemed to me. And then all of a sudden, like Nick said, they just fell apart at the back. Just one chance went in, and that was it. It was utter chaos, and it never really looked like they were going to get back ahead after that. They were just demoralised, and it looked like it was all just a bit too much for them. And considering how much these players had won over their careers, it was quite surprising as a collective that they folded in that manner. But Gents, what do we think? I mean, 4 games to go. You look at the schedule, obviously some tough games, but an easier run-in than Liverpool on paper. We've got Newcastle, Wolves, West Ham and Villa. Those are the final 4 games for City. They win those 4 games, they're the champions of the Premier League. So on paper, Nick, you'd say City would easily win those 4 games, but we just don't know how this is going to impact them, right?
Right. I mean, I think it all comes down to, what a silly thing to say, but it all comes down to this weekend. If they get through this weekend and the emotional damage and the travel and all that, then I have no doubt about them. And frankly, we talk about what they're set up to do. They are set up to just function and be able to go through the motions of their system, if you will, not go through the motions, without passion, and win. But you're going to go to Newcastle and Callum, or play Newcastle, and Callum Wilson could be back, and it's a team that's very feisty and ready to stick it to them and has got a result against them before. I expect Man City to win decisively, but you can't really expect anything, can you? Isn't that a little bit foolish when you consider the emotions involved and the fact that those emotions go from the kit man to the chairman? Absolutely everyone can affect the vibes and nerves and anxiety and comfort and calm and whatever you want to say. Absolutely anything could happen in this game.
It really could. It really could. So remember to head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest analysis, reaction, how to watch information on Man City, see how they react to that damaging defeat in the Champions League semi-final. A huge moment, it feels like, in Pep Guardiola's project. It's difficult to know kind of how they're going to pick themselves up, but we're about to see how they're going to do that in the final weeks of the season. And as I said, we'll have you covered on PST with everything you need to know about Man City and the final weeks of the campaign as they try and get over the line and at least win 1 trophy this season, because it looked like they were going to win 4 at one point, or at least 3, and now it's all down to just the Premier League trophy.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series, and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches, and much more.